Hey, it's Irreverent Aegis here, and in this video I bring you the Trifecta guide for Veteran Oathsworn Pit. That is, the speedrun, hard mode, and no death, all simultaneously. I know you came here for the guide, but in this video I'm also going to share with you Kurano's famous family chicken Parmesan recipe. This feeds a family of 8, and is perfect for you if you only have one tiny pan and only one working burner on your range. So if you've got 4 hours and nobody waiting on you to finish a trifecta, this recipe will get your mouth watering just like Kurano before he goes on a date. Kurano's famous family chicken. Step 1. Prepare the ingredients. 30 minutes, in theory. What you're going to do is you're going to gather 8 large chicken breasts, free range, because you grew them in your backyard. Ideally, you would have taken care of this the day before because you only got 4 hours. Alright? We're going to chop up some parsley, and then some garlic, but only 1 clove at a time, because your small counter demands it. Next, you're going to grate up about 4 cups of mozzarella cheese, and if your arm isn't tired yet, a cup of Parmesan. Last up, you're going to open up a can of your favorite marinara sauce, but you're going to keep it slow. You're going to savor the sound of the can opener, because you never know where your next meal is going to come from. You may not be able to hear this sound again for a while. My group prefers to do all the side bosses for our trifecta bowls whenever possible, and as we used a 2 DD and 1 healer strategy for this dungeon, the first buff, which gives a ton of health, is actually quite helpful for our final boss strategy. Not much to Sluthrug, although as the tank you are actually at risk of dying if you aren't paying that much attention. The crystal attack he does ticks pretty hard if you stay in it, and combined with his repetitive conal attacks, you can actually go down pretty unexpectedly, so don't underestimate it. Get out of the AoEs quickly. Your DDs should stay back and out of the way. That way you can swing the cone out of the ground AoEs and stay safe. Other than that, you shouldn't have too much to worry about. Our first hard mode boss is Packmaster Rethelros. The standard advice on this boss is to have someone kite the wolf when he decides to track the person standing the furthest away. I, of course, need to do things my own way, and I think that strategy is stupid, as it is completely unnecessary, decreases your time on target, and increases your risk of death. So all we do is we have our healer in an ice staff back bar. He stands the furthest away. I guard him. This isn't actually necessary, but it makes it extra safe. When the wolf starts tracking the healer, he just stands there and block casts for a few seconds. The wolf stays in roughly the same spot the whole time, making it easy to keep killing him. This even works with 3 DDs if one of the DDs is willing to use an ice staff backbar. The only difference is I also throw on a burst heal to give some extra healing. Whether you're using 2 DDs or 3 on a trifecta run, the wolf should die before he starts tracking a second time. As far as other mechanics go, the bow AoEs from the main boss hurt a lot, so everybody needs to step out of them ASAP. The bosses will also enrage each other if they're too close, which is never an issue due to our strategy of literally never moving anywhere. A totem of protection will also come up regularly. The first time it comes up is actually very close to the time when the wolf starts tracking, so the DDs will temporarily disengage from the wolf and take that thing down. It needs to be destroyed as soon as possible because it mitigates most of the damage that you hit the bosses with. Finally, there's a linear wave attack that you pretty much just need to not stack, and that's pretty much it, and then the boss dies. Step 2. Heatin the sauce. 1 hour, 15 minutes. Place about 1/8 of that sauce in your one tiny pan. And you're going to heat this over the smallest burner, because that's the only one on your range that actually works. Stir the sauce gently, every 5 minutes, to avoid the scorching. You don't want to scorch this. Alright, it'll ruin it. Once it's warm, after about 15 minutes, pour it into a bowl if you have one. And then you're going to repeat this process about 8 times. Alright? Now, if you're worried about the sauce getting a little bit too cold, put it outside in the sun. Hopefully it's summertime, not middle of winter. Alright? Keep it warm. Step 3. Preparing the chicken. 1 hour, 20 minutes. Season each chicken breast individually with salt, pepper, and Italian seasoning. Place 1 chicken breast in your tiny pan and sear it on low heat for about 10 minutes per side. I know it might look pale, but hey, it is the low burner. Alright? Set each chicken aside, and repeat for the remaining 7. Our second side boss, the one that is by far the most important one to beat, is Bolg of Wicked Barbs. His buff grants you full ultimate upon grabbing the buff, and allows you to generate a ton of extra ultimate, especially when you stack with each other, so this is a must-have to maximize your damage and even your defenses. They put a lot of work into designing this room and the mechanics, so what we're going to do is ignore all of them. Basically, if you prioritize killing the 4 ghosts every time they pop up, you don't need to do anything with the braziers on the ground, then you kill the boss and move on with your life. Our second hard mode boss is Anthelmir's Construct. To start this fight, everybody should drop an ultimate, grab the ultimate statue buff, then drop a second ultimate. The 2 DDs and healer should then stack with each other to maximize ultimate uptime. Our healer is also going to have the red CP Shield Master slotted to minimize the cost of barrier. There are 2 dangerous things for the DDs and healer to look out for. The first are the Cinder Moths. Instead of just leaving behind the gross powder everywhere like in real life, they just explode and murder you. If you are being targeted by a moth, you'll get a cookie over your head. When it reaches you, it'll put out an AoE, giving you time to move or roll out of the way before it explodes. The second is the Axe Throw and Catch. Because our healer is going to be spamming barrier on cooldown, this doesn't really matter all that much as it won't kill anyone through the barrier, but if a barrier happens to not be up, everyone needs to be on high alert to roll dodge on a dime because the attack is fast. If you are the tank, during the second phase of the fight, after the boss rolls around on the floor for a while, just be sure not to kite the fire into anyone, and definitely stay out of the AoEs, as there are many of them. And feel free to be a Sork tank so you can drop hundreds of Aradros throughout the fight, and then also slot and execute. You actually can deal non-negligible damage, which is pretty sweet. With all the ultimates everyone's dropping, plus my execute, this boss should go down pretty quickly. Step 4. Breadin the chicken. 45 minutes. Dip each chicken breast in flour, then egg, then breadcrumbs, one at a time, as your counter space demands. We've already been through this. Tiny counter. Place the breaded chicken in your pan, 2 at a time if they fit. Probably not, maybe just 1. Wait until it reaches a golden brown hue. For 8 pieces, again, budget about 30 to 45 minutes. Next up, step 5, bake time. Time to bake, 1 hour. Preheat your oven, if it goes this high, to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, hopefully it goes that high. You haven't used this thing in a while. If not, you can crank up that small burner again and stack the chicken pieces to create a baking tower. All right, a baking tower under a tin foil tent. And then you're going to let them warm for about 15 minutes each, 4 at a time. Again, a baking tower. All right, picture that. Our third side boss gives us a buff that honestly sounds like it was designed for people who roleplay as werewolves, not people trying to do trifectas. But regardless, it does increase weapon and spell damage by 10% even if you don't grab the buff statue, which makes it worth it. Grubduthag is really annoying as he spends most of the fight running away. If you have a healer, you can send the healer around to activate the furnaces, which will make the fight seem slightly less annoying, but really you're just giving the healer something to do, so he feels important. Pretty much the only dangerous thing is the heavy attack that hits everyone with an AoE. It can be blocked easily. Before you know it, this fight will probably end, even though it doesn't feel like it's going to. The final boss, Aradros the Awakened, is pretty tough. Part of it is a visual mechanic that's hard to see, which is what I call hot feet. Throughout the fight, players will get hot feet, which will make the tiles underneath where they're standing start to crack. It's hard to see, so it's good for people to communicate when they see it so everyone knows it's happening. When it's active, players need to slowly walk around the room so they don't get hit when the tile breaks, as it places a bright red lava tile in its place. If they walk too quickly, too many tiles will be destroyed, and that makes it hard to move around the room as the fight progresses because they don't go away on hard mode. Standing on a lava tile for even a short time will kill the healer or the DDs. Aradros has a circular AoE ground slam that will ignite all the tiles it hits as well. You actually can block this as the tank without trouble, but you can't roll dodge it too late as it will both hit and kill you mid-roll. So you either need to completely be out of it by the time it hits or just stand there and block it. Another attack the boss does will cause an instant death to anyone who gets hit by it, and this one also cannot be roll dodged through. Tiles will start to glow in randomly placed lines across the arena, then they'll ignite, killing anyone who is standing on them. Once they're placed, they'll continue hitting the same spots until the mechanic ends, so players should just find a safe spot and stand there. The boss goes to the center of the room at 50%, and that is where the second phase of this fight starts. The strat with the healer for this phase is completely different than it is if you use 3DD, so don't try this method with 3DDs. We send our healer and DDs into the room next to the red health statue. Before they go into the room, they grab the red buff, and the healer hits a barrier. As the tank, I do not join them. I wait a while, grab the red buff, then I run into the middle room to assemble the smelter. Just kidding, although I always really wanted to on a Trifecta pull. Anyway, what you can't see is the DDs absolutely wrecking the side room mini-boss. With the red buff, the barrier, and a healer, it goes down fast and everyone usually stays pretty safe. The AoE from that boss is a little glitchy, unfortunately, and sometimes someone will die when they are clearly not being hit by anything. But hey, this is ESO, so what else is new? After that mini dies, they exit the room before it explodes and engage the second mini in the central area. Once again, they don't need me to kill this thing, as this mini's deadly attacks are also easy to avoid. Meanwhile, I'm keeping the hardest mini, Phanolier, off by myself to prevent the magma chains and the giant ground AoE from wrecking everyone. To make this extra easy for myself, I threw on Ball Lightning so I can just teleport away from all his damaging attacks. Right after the second chain hits me is about the same time the rest of the group finishes off the other mini, so I retop my guy and bring him center. If you get the timing down, he can be killed before he drops the chain on everyone, but sometimes he takes a while to get into the room. If the chain does hit, everyone just needs to back away from it simultaneously so everyone is out of the AoE explosion that hits when the chain is broken. A barrier does help. After he goes down, everyone can re-up with their statue buff of choice. Red is nice for survivability, but the ultimate buff makes the fight faster. The main boss will then return. There are no new mechanics here, so it's just rinse and repeat from the first phase until he goes down. Step 6. Assemble in the final bake, about 30 minutes. So you're going to layer each chicken piece with sauce and cheese, place it 2 at a time in the pan to melt the cheese over low heat. I repeat, low heat. Got to take your time here. Finally, when you're all done, you're going to serve each piece as they finish, shouting, "Dinner's ready," every 5 minutes to each person until they all show up. You never know where little Timmy and Johnny are. They might be far away, so you gotta keep reminding them every 5 minutes. Now, after y'all finish eating, the good news is that you probably don't own any utensils, so cleanup's pretty easy. Just gotta make the short walk to the old watering hole to wash your hands. By the time you're done, if your ESO team hasn't yet gone to sleep, you might even have some time to successfully complete the Trifecta. Or, better yet, wipe the group at 5% Kurano so you can try again 2 weeks later. Bon appetit. Don't forget to like and subscribe.